This is the Celiac Project, two guys talking gluten-free. Just wanted to give a little disclaimer. We are not medical experts, doctors, dietitians,
Nurses.
bone experts, surgeons.
We're only experts at being celiac patients.
So enjoy the show. And if you're going to do any changes to your diet or need real medical advice, please go to the medical professionals.
That's what they're there for.
Today's episode of the Celiac Project podcast is sponsored by Taste Republic, who believes everyone deserves to eat good, fresh pasta, no matter their dietary restrictions. All of Taste Republic's pastas are certified gluten-free and beloved for not sacrificing taste or texture. With fan favorites such as 4-cheese tortelloni and cauliflower linguine, Taste Republic has a wide range of pastas to choose from. Find Taste Republic at retailers such as Whole Foods Market, Publix, Sprouts, Meijer, H-E-B, or online at tasterepublic.com. The Celiac Project podcast is proud to be partnered with Bull & Company MediaWorks, specialists in website design and digital marketing with over 20 years of experience. Go to bullcm.com to find out about all of their services. You found the Celiac Project podcast, two guys talking gluten-free. I'm Mike.
And I'm Cam.
And what are we talking about on today's podcast, Cam?
You're going to catch me up on a wonderful trip you and Jess just went on, checking out some colleges.
Yeah, we went to U of I, Indiana, and Miami of Ohio. Had just the greatest trip. Let's get to the show.
Sounds good.
Cam, it is so good to see you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to share this one with you. So Jessica and I just got back from an epic, it was sort of a 4-night excursion to see, in order, the University of Illinois, University of Indiana, and then Miami of Ohio. So this is fun because at some point we'll have Jessica on very soon because we get lots of really cool letters and feedback from our wonderful listeners, all of you out there, about hearing about Cam's journey in college. And now people have actually seen Jessica grow up in front of their eyes and ears, most likely, if you're listening. But if you watch the documentary, she was a very little kid in that. So people are like, every day I get these messages, I can't believe Jessica's a senior and getting ready for college. So this one was really fun, Cam, because these were the first accepted student, right? She's an admitted student to all of these places, and she's gotten into other places, but this was over the President's Day weekend. She had a light schedule on Friday, so we were able to leave here Thursday when she was done with classes, and she only really missed like one day of school, which was great because of President's Day. But it's really fun. I think you know this too, right? If you're in a place, you kind of see it with different eyes. So that was really fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's super exciting. I've been looking forward to this episode and when we talk to Jess personally, but I can't wait to hear all the fun that you guys had.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to have her on to get her perspective. I was thought of bringing her on this one, but I thought this one will highlight, as we always do when we do these sort of travel logs, I will be highlighting the gluten-free food. And wow, I mean, I will just start it off with, so as I said, our first trip was the campus of University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. And it's funny, my dad went there. I've spent my life going to University of Illinois and have sort of magical memories. When I was in grad school, I went to Columbia College to get my MFA, and my best friend at the time was at Illinois doing his postdoc. He does physics at MIT now, and so he was one of my best friends from high school. And so I always went there to kind of get back to my campus roots. I went undergrad to the University of Kansas, KU, and, you know, having grad school very much like you are in a more urban campus, I kind of longed for the traditional campus that was more in a college town. So you and I have both experienced the urban thing, which is fun too. So I have lots of good memories at University of Illinois. This was obviously before I was diagnosed with celiac. So on Thursday night, we rolled into Champaign-Urbana, and I was like looking, of course, using the Find Me Gluten-Free app. And we happened upon, based on the app, a place called Maize. And actually, Maize had a lot of different locations, but the one that was reviewed so wonderfully was Maize at the station. They actually, I think in the student union, there's a smaller Maize, but it's funny. We walked in, just a giant place, right? And I think we got there at like 5:45, and very nice gentleman seated us. And I always, when I go in, I go, you guys understand gluten-free, we have celiac disease. He's like, oh yeah, no worries. And so we get to our table and we are given, and it also said like on the menu, dedicated fryer. They make their own tortillas and tortilla chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down at the table and he brings us chips and salsa, and the chips alone were worth going there. It's just incredible, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking and there's so many choices, and he explains to me, basically it's one of those places like 95% of our menu is gluten-free, right? So it's pretty exciting and we're ready to eat and everything, but I'm looking over all, like there's all these just platters of food and everything. And one of the menus that he handed us was a happy hour menu. And it said happy hour 4 to 6, I think, every day. And so you could pick from, it said, pick any 3 for $10. And then it had the meats. And it was like a taco, sopa, haracha, gordita, quesadilla. There were a couple others. And then you could get it al pastor, tinga, chorizo. There was actually a couple of vegetarian, like one was zucchini blossoms, and then you could get like a cactus thing.
Yeah, I've had that actually before.
Yeah. So, we were kind of in a daze and we were like so excited. And I actually said to him, so can we still order off the happy hour menu? And he goes, of course. And so we had this amazing chips and salsa, right? I ordered like a mezcal, which is, you and I like the smoky stuff, like a mezcal style margarita, which was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jess and I got a bunch of different things, the 3 for $10. And to say that we got value, it was so authentic, Cam. Such good food. I was like, why isn't there a place like this in my town? Because it was just so good. So our trip started off just magnificently. It was just so cool to have that experience. Funny thing, so we're finishing our meal, and then I'm looking at Jess, and she starts saying this girl's name, and it's someone who lives like 5 blocks from us in Evanston.
Yeah.
One of those weird small world, really nice family. They were like a softball family. And so we actually ran into them at the union the next day and saw them briefly on the tour for the admitted students.
That's so funny.
I will say, I'll give a couple of my little thoughts about the colleges too. I won't go too deep into that. And I'll say Jessica, I don't know what her expectations of Illinois were, right? So it doesn't necessarily, when you grow up, your state school has a certain reputation. I think kids get swept away by things that seem a little more exotic, I'll say. But she was really surprised at how she was sort of vibing with the campus. There was such a good energy. We were there. It was a sunny day, and the campus life was so alive. Like there were all these groups. It was right before Valentine's Day, and kids were selling like baked goods for fundraisers, and just a really good, really fun feel for the campus. Have you been to Champaign-Urbana at all?
I have not, but I've had so many friends that have gone there, and then they've told me a lot about it. And I've seen a lot of pictures, obviously, but no, I don't know firsthand what it's like down there. I didn't go to too many traditional universities even to check them out, actually, like you were talking about before. But I have been to ISU's campus, and that's probably the most traditional style campus that I've been to. That and Notre Dame, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and as I said, I always have really good memories. I used to go with my dad to see basketball games. They're one of the college teams that I root really hard for. And so it was really, really nice. Our other sort of food experience to share, for the most part, when we stay at these places for breakfast, I go down and I get like yogurt and Activia by Dannon, which is certified gluten-free, tends to be in a lot of these places. And it's nice because my wife always packs us with some homemade baked goods. And I know you all know this tip, but hotels tend to have both microwaves and refrigerators in the room. So we actually had these nice blueberry muffins that my wife Ellen made for us. And then I would get a banana for Jessica. We had rice cakes and she did like rice cakes and peanut butter, and we had muffins. So I won't be talking, I think, at all about breakfast because we just did our thing. But the next day, here's a good tip for anybody who has celiac kids or kids with a food allergy or anything like this. This trip, I wanted her to feel as much like a student. And one of the big things, it was really funny because we'd go on these tours and the tour guide would always say, like, let me know if you want any tips of where to eat. And all my questions about food were about the dining hall for special diets and all of that. And we did our homework ahead of time. So I would give Illinois a really high rating. We went to one of the main dining halls. It was the, I think, Illinois Street Dining Hall. And so it was one of the main dining halls. And it was nice because we walked in and I found someone working there. And I said, is there somebody who can show us? I know that there's a station here that's free of the top 9 allergens. And I was handed off to a very nice gentleman who was like a manager, and he brought us over, and a very nice woman who worked there was explaining that nothing that has any of the top allergens ever gets into that kitchen. And we got into a really nice conversation about things. She was really, really nice and showed me that not only are there the dining halls, but I think a little bit like your situation, Jessica could pre-order via an app. They can make anything as long as it's free of the top 9 because it all is made in that kitchen. I know this is maybe a little different than your situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, right? So she can order a burger, right? But they couldn't put cheese on it, which is fine because she doesn't do dairy. But they couldn't even do the bun, right? They'd have to put it in a lettuce wrap or something, but she could have her own bun. But they said you could order 4 burgers if you want. Anything that's free of those allergens. And I asked, like, are any of these stations, if she wanted to venture out, if there was like a salad bar, for instance, and I really appreciate this. The woman said, if cross contact, if trace amounts are an issue, I would stay within this kitchen. So it was really nice. That was really cut and dry. Did you have any questions about that?
No, it's super interesting because obviously I'm in the same school system as U of I in Champaign, and we don't have separate kitchens, though, unfortunately. We do have separate areas, and there's a separate grill, and it's like further away and sectioned off kind of. But that's super interesting, the difference between the two schools. And I don't know, was the app the Everyday app? Did they mention?
I'm not sure what it was called, but it's interesting too, Cam, that you brought that up because I actually had that same thought. I thought about you and I thought, well, he's in one of the Illinois state schools. And so why, like, I did have that moment of that's a bummer because I knew you didn't have the exact same situation there. And maybe because the U of I in Champaign-Urbana is a larger school, maybe it's just taking more time to get that to you. But it's disappointing because obviously I wish you had that too.
Sure, yeah. But my situation is all right, though. I've been having an okay time for the most part. So
glad to hear that. And so I'll keep us moving. That was sort of...
Yes. I'm excited to hear what other...
And overall, as I said, really excellent time. And we'll hear a lot more from Jessica when we have her on. So I won't do a deep dive, but I was impressed with Illinois, and so was Jessica. Hey, Cam, before we continue the podcast, let's take a minute to talk about our wonderful sponsor, Taste Republic.
Taste Republic makes all their pasta fresh in their Madison, Wisconsin facility. There are multiple great advantages to having fresh pasta that you just can't get from a dry, shelf-stable version.
Yeah, first, fresh pasta just cooks quicker, so after adding it to boiling water, Taste Republic's fresh pasta cooks in only 2 to 3 minutes to create that perfect al dente texture. In addition, as it's fresh, Taste Republic can also offer filled pastas. This means you can have your tortellonis and raviolis that are gluten-free. Be sure to check out their fresh lasagna sheets as well, which allow you to not only make lasagna, but you can get creative making meals such as cannelloni, ravioli, pasta chips, lasagna soup, and more, all without the need to boil them.
Check out their website for quick and easy recipes. Visit tasterepublic.com. Use the code Celiac Project to save 20% off your online order and have delicious gluten-free pasta shipped directly to your doorstep.
Now let's get back to the show.
Sounds good.
We were then driving to Bloomington, Indiana to see IU, University of Indiana, which she had been accepted to and had a friend. She actually had friends from softball at both schools. We weren't able to see her friend at Illinois, but we probably will visit again. So we went to Indiana, and right away, if you have heard the other time that we went to Indiana, there's this pizza place, this pizza and pasta place called Buccetto's Pizza and Pasta. It was like Big Mouth Pizza and Pasta. Why I love that place. And, it's that sort of, it's not like an upscale place. It's a little bit of like what I miss having celiac. It's that really small place. It's unassuming, and it's kind of like next to a strip mall, but such a comforting place. And the food is so good and comforting. We got pizza, pasta, and a salad. And if you recall, I quizzed you when I first talked about the place. I asked how much they had, like a wine special by the glass each day. And I think at the time when we were there, like in the summer, in 2025, and I think the wine special was like $3 or something. Now,
Wow.
Now some of the wine I paid $4.50 for the wine. So,
Okay. Inflation.
but it was just as good as we remembered. Jessica and I just love that place. And it's really that sort of comforting food. They actually make a salad. We have a place in Evanston that has been around in different incarnations since I was a kid called Dave's Italian Kitchen. And they make this Italian salad, and the way they make it and the dressing and the cheese they use, it's like exactly as I remembered as a kid. So that's always comforting. There's a lot of comfort food on this trip. So get ready for more of that. So I won't go too deep into that because I've talked about that place before. But our situation at Indiana was a little different than Illinois and Miami in that we had very scheduled admitted student visits. It was like these big days planned. And we scheduled Indiana at the last minute because Jessica reached out to the university. She was admitted to the honors in psychology, and she asked, is there an honors psychology student? Like, there's a form. Could I do like a one-on-one visit with a student that's like me? And it was in the 11th hour, we heard back from the student a very upbeat email from this young woman, Jessica. Yeah, I can show you around. And Jessica had given a window of time on Saturday. And so we were really excited. And she actually like put together a schedule. We'll start in the psychology building. We'll go to a dorm. We'll go to the dining hall, all this. So we show up, and this young woman walks in, and there was an awkward beat where I asked if she wanted to I was ready to let Jessica just do a one-on-one, or would she want me to be part of it? And then she kind of slowly, like, she looked like her head was going to explode. She said, I think you would want to see like the dining hall and the dorms. And I go, okay, yeah, sure. And I think Jessica wanted me along. So it turns out that she was a student from Russia. Very nice, very well-intentioned. It was hard. It was a really, I don't
understand her.
She talked pretty fast. I could tell she was very, very smart. She was very different from Jessica. And it was kind of the most awkward tour of anything that either of us had ever had. Like, I'll just give you an example, Cam. So I said, so do you know, like, have you met other Russian students here? And she'd just go, no. I was trying to engage. We were trying to ask her questions. Jessica would talk about some of Jessica's interests, and it was kind of like nothing. And again, very well-intentioned. And I know this really, it didn't affect the way we looked at Indiana, I will say, because, she was just different. And so we've had the standard tour of Indiana. And that was, as a student guide, you get a sort of training to do that. I think this was like in the 11th hour, the psych.
Yeah, impromptu.
Right. And I think the honors and psych department put out, is there anybody available? So I'm not like, it just was really awkward, and it was a little bit of a drain on us. And I think what I do want to bring up on this tour, though, that was also really head scratching. So we had just had the really good experience at the dining hall at Illinois. And so we tried to explain to her, like, she thought we wanted to eat there. I said, well, really, can we just I want to check it out. We want to vet it. I was trying to explain to her. She had a friend, our tour guide, that had a peanut thing. And I said, well, it's a little different with celiac where there's no anaphylaxis and this and that. But so we got into this really large dining hall. we see the area that seems to be the allergen free place, right? And I walk right up and there's a guy working there. And I go, so this is the food that would be allergen free, right? And I get more like sort of deer in headlights. And I go, is this stuff would be gluten free and free of other allergens? And he's working at the station. Okay. So he calls another guy over and I go, oh, good. Now we're going to get to like the manager or whatever. So I start explaining my daughter's an admitted student. We're doing a tour. We just want to kind of see the dining situation here. She has celiac disease. I know we would talk to a dietitian ahead of time, but I'm guessing this is the place that she would eat that's free of the allergens, including gluten. He was more confused than the guy behind the thing. And he goes, I don't really know. And I'm like thinking some red flags are going off at this point because things were marked vegan and I could see that these were probably the allergen free places. And I kind of looked at Jessica and she was like dumbfounded. And I will say this, we've talked to our friend Andrea Tucker, who does her great gluten-free college stuff, Gluten-Free College 101. And we've always, when we have her on the podcast, you should not decide on a college based on the food. And Indiana had already kind of slipped lower on our list. But I don't mean, hey, if there are people out there who have kids with celiac who go to Indiana, I'd love you to reach out. It just did not give me any confidence. And we've now been on enough campuses where I have not had that situation where there's not someone, and I will say this, disclaimers, this was a Saturday. I understand it wasn't like the busy time, but how do you not have protocols and trainings so that the people working there know what they're serving, right?
Right. Well, I've had that experience a handful of times here when certain people aren't in. So I totally can relate. But yeah, that doesn't inspire confidence at all. I totally understand and agree. There's layers.
Yes. And also, this is a gigantic state school. And you would just think that there'd be someone on all shifts. And I understand that it actually does help clarify the situation. I know they're probably running a bit of a skeleton staff on a weekend. However,
Actually, that is another good point that you just brought up. The weekend, I have not gotten food on the weekend here. And they did tell me when I started school here that we would have to work out something for the weekend. Because like you're saying, the main chef and staff aren't always there. It might only be like one or two people that's the same that you would normally be dealing with. So that's a good point.
yeah, and I realize that. But still, I mean,
Yes, still though.
if you're at a station, Cam, and the station is like supposedly allergen free and you don't know what you're serving, it just was so head scratching to me. And again, I don't want to throw Indiana. I know a lot of people personally who love Indiana, go there. It's just for many, many reasons, it wasn't the right fit for Jessica. And I'll give another tip for those of you, if you have kids and you're listening, whether they have celiac or not. And it's so important to find. My daughter actually applied to 21 schools, which I think is a few too many, right? And some are reaches, some are safeties, and they're not all like her first choices.
Sure.
However, we're at a point where she's gotten into so many that she needs to start
Narrowing it down.
100%. So that was great. Illinois moved up on the list. Indiana moved off the list.
I wish you guys had a board that you could actually move the names on.
Well, maybe we'll do that. And that's a good idea. Like on her iPad, she's making a grid, pluses, minuses, like all the financials, all of this, who has what and distance, all of those things.
One thing that she should also look into on the financial side is the ROI on the degree from the college, and then also what the employment 1-2 years out of school is from that school.
Yeah.
Because some schools have a employment program or different relationships in the private sector, and they can help you out like that.
Yeah, 100%. That's a big selling point that a lot of colleges give you is how quickly people get employed and median salaries. And she's really on that. And I know too, psychology, the median isn't like what you'd get with a business degree or something like that. So her mind is going quick on all these. It'll be really fun, Cam, to have her on. I think we're going to have to do a series of shows with her. And
Definitely.
And we'll go through, because it's interesting too, being the parent, because this is her decision. But we go visit these places and it is so hard. When I have a strong feeling one way or the other, and I try to give her my thoughts always framed in a way that it's her choice, but my wife and I are there to help support her in making the best choice. But the one little sad thing, and I talked about it extensively last time we were in Bloomington, Indiana, was the Brightside Cafe, which is a dedicated place. Sadly, when we were leaving town, it was closed like I think Sunday and Monday, and we were
Oh,
leaving.
that's the worst.
Yeah, really, they're all sweethearts there. The story, when we were there last time, we actually met a student with celiac disease who was graduating, and she told Jessica that she did great with the food and everything. So, there's the flip side of our experience visiting the dining halls and all that.
For sure.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Brightside Cafe was closed. Here's a little tip. It was cute. Jessica had met up with an old softball friend who was at Indiana. Another softball friend was visiting the girls at University of Wisconsin at Madison, and she was in town for Valentine's Day visiting. They all went to the same high school visiting her boyfriend, and they were all softball buddies. So she got to go out to coffee, and we were going to go to Brightside afterwards before leaving town to go to Oxford, Ohio, where Miami of Ohio is. And when I found out Brightside was closed, I remembered we had a really nice sort of high-end grocery store nearby. And have you heard of True Story as a brand?
I don't think so.
So they had this ready-made chicken. Jessica doesn't like traditional cold cuts. I want to call her nature girl, right? She likes fruit, but not candy. The more
less processing.
Exactly what I was going to say. The less processed the food is, the more she tends to like it. And so it's not cheap, but we went to this Fresh Time Market that I think is a chain, and they had really high-end stuff, and she had tried it the day before. And so, do you know O'Dough's bread, gluten-free? They make buns and bagels.
I don't think I know them either.
It's a really nice brand. They're available also. I've seen them here and had them from Whole Foods, but you can get buns, bagels. I think they make some other things. So I made us sandwiches, and it would help us get out of town. While we were sad we couldn't get to Brightside, it was a good substitution. Everyone's happy, and we got to get out of town. So then, as I said, we headed to Oxford, Ohio. We had visited Miami of Ohio before, and it's such a really beautiful campus. It seems like one of those hot schools now. Like, a lot of people from this area are going to Miami. And she was like admitted in the honors college, and they have this Make It Miami days. So we went to check that out. But, the night before, that was on Monday, we drove in on Sunday, and I again used the Find Me Gluten-Free app. So when I looked things up, the highest ranked place was something called Fretboard Brewing and Public House. And it looked like it was like a burger place. And so it was a little bit of a drive. It was actually in a place called Hamilton, Ohio. So we had to drive like 30 minutes. It wasn't right in Oxford, which was like a slight bummer because, students, especially freshman year, she's not going to have access to a car necessarily. But Cam, that's when I was like texting you. My head was about to explode. So we get there, and like it's all 5 stars on the app, right? And all 5 hearts for the safety. And not only is it a dedicated fryer, not only do they have burgers with safe buns, but they had fish and chips and chicken tenders. And I got there, and we met the general manager, and we got to talking and heard a little bit of the story where I think one of the owners has a child with celiac, and they actually have a group of restaurants in the area. But Cam, so I will say this, and I'm going to go hyperbolic for a second. Best fish and chips I've ever had. It's just, these are the ones that you would eat, and like nobody would ever say this is gluten-free. So crispy, just so good. We were like, literally head exploding kind of food.
That's awesome. I'm very jealous. I remember when you sent that text, I could tell when you were texting that you were just on cloud 9 with your food experience. I pulled it up on my phone while you were mentioning them because it sounded so familiar. I don't think I've been there, but definitely driven through Ohio, but it looks awesome. Next time I go through there, I will make the detour.
Yeah, it's not too far from Cincinnati. That would be the largest city nearby.
Definitely drove through there.
Yeah. So, and if you remember on one of the college trips when we went to the University of Cincinnati, there was some great, there was like a dedicated high-end Mexican. So, between this and Maize, which were the two new experiences that we had. Maize at the station, just such incredible food. Like, these were two places that I was like, why can't these be closer to my house? And the sad thing is, it's funny too, because we also like Bucchettos. As soon as she decides to go to one school, we might not have much of an opportunity to go to some of these restaurants, but this place was just so good, and they were so friendly and knowledgeable, and it's just nice to have the safe food. So the next day we did the Make It Miami tour, which was for accepted students. I will say on my end, Miami does such a good job of everything. I think back on my college time and my visits, and it was just sort of like you sit in a room and everything at this school was so well thought out and so intentional, right? The way they really want you to have a really well supported 4 years. I got that from most of the schools. I think Miami really did a good job with this Make It Miami. We could go to the psychology building and get tours, and we got to the honors college, and an honor student like brought us through the dorm, and they talked about what honors meant and all of these things. And as a parent, I mean, it was just a really, really impressive time, as was Illinois. And, you know, we didn't have the same kind of tour at Indiana, but it was a fun thing. And I'll just say this in the end, as I know we're wrapping up. I know you've had this with your parents. It was like such great bonding time with Jessica. Like, I was driving and I was recounting some stories back from when I was her age. She was asking me questions, and just everything from the food, like the choices we made, to the times we had on the campuses, even the stuff, like I said, you have to make your list smaller. So that was helpful too. But we just had the best time. I'm the luckiest guy. I have the best kid. You know, I'm biased, but we just had a wonderful time.
No, that's the best. And that's how you should feel. And I'm glad that you guys had got to go on that trip. It was actually extra cool that it was just the two of you. So that's also special. I do remember going to Santa Monica to check it out before going there, and it was a very fun trip. Definitely good times. And I remember, I guess at the time I had the wherewithal to realize, I was like, oh, wow, like, the whole being, I mean, you're still a kid when you're in college, but I had the feeling of like, oh, the high school thing this is all over. This is the end of it. And so it's a really nice transition because you're given absolute freedom in a lot of ways, but you don't have the craziest of responsibilities. So you can kind of explore a lot with that. So I'm excited for Jess.
Yeah, well said. And, you know, it's interesting because as someone who both went to college and now I get to experience some of this through my daughter's eyes and, like, you know, try to, as I say, give her advice and all of this, it is really sort of a magical time in her life. So just sort of like feeding off some of that excitement, and everything is new for her. And as a parent, it's all new for me because I haven't sent a kid to college yet. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, this has been fun talking about this. I'm really looking forward to down the way, not too far away from this. We will have Jessica on to share her thoughts. You know, we'll have her on to announce which college and why she chose it and all of that.
Are you going to put all the hats out?
I don't know. We could put some hats out. I don't know if we have all the hats, but yes, but it's fun. And this is fun to talk to you about this, Cam. And I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to this. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. See ya.
The TCP Inner Circle is our Patreon group that supports the podcast. It not only helps us with some of the many costs involved so we can keep the podcast going strong, but the TCP Inner Circle is really about building a like-minded community of people who support one another and learn from each other's experiences.
I think the coolest thing is that Mike and I host a hangout once a month, and we have gotten to interact with so many of our listeners in this incredible group, and they get to know each other in the process as well. At certain levels, you can get a t-shirt or a one-on-one hangout. Go to patreon.com/Celiac Project to join or find out more about it. We'd love to expand our Celiac community through Patreon and look forward to seeing you at our next TCP Inner Circle Hangout.